Oh wait, I'm in the car. I can't shut my eyes. Greetings, scholars. It is I, David, your mind mechanic. So I thought I would just visit for a moment some of my favorite relaxation techniques. Because sometimes we just need to step away from whatever's going on. Sometimes we're stressed and we need to just kind of take a little short break in our busy days. And sometimes a longer break. So the first one is just some slow, controlled, deep breathing. Some people call it square breathing. There's lots of different names for this and slight variations on the same thing. This is probably my favorite breathing exercise, not just a relaxation technique, but probably my favorite breathing exercise. I'll give you the steps for it, but I also have a way to help you remember, or not help you remember, but to help you do it without having to think so much. This first breathing exercise is very simple. It's got 4 parts, and it's 5 seconds apiece. So what you do is you breathe in for 5 seconds, you hold your breath for 5 seconds, you exhale for 5 seconds, and then it's not really holding your breath, but you wait to breathe again for another 5 seconds. Or a 5 count. It doesn't have to be at 5 actual seconds. Now, the reason that we do this is that we're trying to achieve 3 breaths per minute or less. So if you do that 4 parts with 5 seconds apiece, so the in, the hold, the out, the hold, and that's a 5 count for each part, that's 20 seconds to breathe in and to breathe out. And that's your 3 breaths a minute. Now, why do we want to get our breathing rate so slow? Well, there's this interesting thing with the human body called the diving reflex. And the main way the diving reflex gets triggered is if we submerge our head underwater and we're holding our breath. We've got these fun little sensors in our bodies, and what the body starts to do is it wants to conserve oxygen. So as long as you're not panicked, a lot of times it will just by default, it will slow, it can slow the heart rate down, it can slow, the body will, so it slows, I guess, metabolic rate to the point that the body doesn't want to use as much oxygen, which isn't bad. Like, this doesn't hurt you. It's not an oxygen deprivation. It's just, the body slows things down. Brain activity is one of them in particular. And this is important when we're trying to relax or if we're having anxiety and things because, well, we're usually ramped up when we're feeling anxious or tense. Our heart rate goes up. We're using too much oxygen. We're breathing too much, too fast. And so doing this exercise can actually trigger the diving reflex a little bit. And it can, and we've seen this on EEGs, so those active brain scans with all the electrodes. It throws a lot of the parts of the brain into a deep sleep-like pattern, even though you're still awake. And it's perfectly safe to do this while you're driving. Just don't shut your eyes when you do it. It sounds simple enough, right? But if you're in a panic state or a highly anxious state, try and remember the steps. It can be a bit irritating and annoying. So what I would do is get a drinking straw. The trick to doing this through a straw is to not pull too hard because we can only pull so much air through the straw at a time. But get a straw that you feel comfortable with, or if you think you can control yourself, make whistle lips, and just breathe through the whistle lips, in and out through the whistle lips. A straw really takes a lot of the thinking out of the equation. You don't even have to think about whistle lips. So that's probably my number one. Another thing that I like to do sometimes is I just do some deep breathing, not necessarily the type of breathing I just described. I like to sit in a chair or even just lie down on a bed. Doing this you cannot do while you're driving. I like to do some slow, controlled, deep breathing, and what I call this a grounding exercise. So the first thing I do, and this has got several parts, and this is definitely not when you're overly anxious. Well, you could try this when you're overly anxious, but it's hard to get all the thoughts in. So the first thing I do is I start with some realities that no one can argue with. So the fact that, like right now, I'm in my car. So I would say I'm in my car, I'm wearing gray pants and a blue shirt, and I have glasses on. Those are things that no one would argue with. They're thoroughly objective. So I start with that. Then I might work with some sensations, bodily sensations that I'm feeling at the moment. Like, I can feel the texture of the interior of the inside of my socks on my feet. Or I can feel the slight pressure of my shoes hugging my feet, things like that. Try not to focus on any pain that you may have, any discomfort you have. And then if I can get that far, what I like to do is I like to try and focus on noises that I hear in the house. We have electricity, most of us do, running into our houses, so there's always little hums and things, little ambient noises. I like to try and I like to pick a noise, sometimes just my own breathing, but I like to try and do that. Dial a noise in or out. It's all about, having control here. So again, there's the basic breathing exercise. That's the first thing I said. Then there's this reality grounding exercise. That's another fun one I like. Really, those are kind of my two main relaxation techniques. Probably my top two favorites. So I would try them, give them a go, see how they help you. If you have any questions on that, hit me up on social, email, whatever. I have no problem answering questions and trying to help you on that. So I hope the video was useful, and have a great rest of your day.